Hi, my name is Anant and I welcome you to my YouTube channel 22 Yards. If you like the content of this video, please do not forget to press the subscribe button. For this video, I would like to take you back in time to 1877, almost 150 years ago. It was a momentous occasion and the journey of Test cricket was set to begin. It was the first time that England and Australia faced up to each other in a Test match. Not only was it a great occasion, but it was also a memorable Test match. Charles Bannerman, an Englishman playing for Australia, opened the innings for Australia, who batted first. He played one of the most heroic and one of the greatest innings ever played in the history of the game. Talking briefly about this Test match, Australia, who batted first, scored 245 at the back of a brilliant 165 by Charles Bannerman. Englishmen, on their part, could only manage 194 in their repose. Australia, batting third, also failed miserably and only managed to score 104. The English eyes would have lit up and they would have fancied their chances to register the first ever Test victory, chasing a small score of 154. However, it was not to be, and the English were dismissed for 108, thereby handing out a win to Australia by 45 runs in the first Test match ever played. Australia, to their credit, since then have remained the most dominant side in Test cricket for the better part of 150 years, except for a period between 1980 and 1995, where the West Indians, with their fearsome quartet of fast bowlers and explosive batting lineup, won everything that came their way and also devastated Australia. The first ever Test match was a truly great low-scoring affair. Charles Bannerman's innings was an outstanding tribute to this occasion. Charles Bannerman, opening the innings for Australia, became the first batsman ever to face a ball in Test cricket. His 100, the first ever in Test cricket, is unarguably one of the greatest innings ever played in Test cricket and is the gold standard against which all innings played can be measured. It blows my mind that even after 147 years and 2000 plus Test matches, no one has bettered Bannerman's heroics that day. Bannerman's 165 out of a total of 243 still remains the largest percentage of runs scored by a batsman in a completed Test innings. Bannerman scored a humongous 67.3% of Australia's runs in the first Test innings. He is closely followed by another fellow Australian, Michael Slater, who scored 123 out of a total of 184, thereby scoring 66.84% runs of his team score. At number 3 is VVS Lakshman, our own VVS Lakshman, scoring 167 out of 261 scored against Australia in Sydney, which is almost 64% of the runs scored in a completed Test innings. Just for emphasis and effect, I will repeat once again. In 147 years and in more than 2000 Test matches that have been played ever since, no one has really bettered Charles Bannerman's record. Charles Bannerman's achievement is even more special because he did not actually get dismissed in that innings. He had to retire hurt, thereby becoming the first batsman to retire hurt in Test cricket. That also cost him the chance to score 200 in Test cricket's first essay. Charles Bannerman's achievement is even more special because in the two innings that Australia played, the second highest score was 18 and no one therefore crossed 20, telling you how difficult it was to bat in those conditions. Charles Bannerman's other highlights were that he became the first batsman to score a 50, 100 and 150 in Test cricket. He also became the first batsman to hit more than 15 Test boundaries, hitting 18 boundaries in his mammoth 165. Our own Ranji, playing for England against Australia in 1896, hit 23 boundaries, breaking Bannerman's record. It was more than 100 years when Wayne Phillips, playing for Australia against Pakistan on his debut, hit 20 boundaries, thereby surpassing Charles Bannerman and hitting the most boundaries for an Australian on his debut. Charles Bannerman was also the topper for Australia against England in 1878. However, those matches were not granted the Test status. Charles Bannerman then became an umpire, becoming the first player to turn an umpire in Test cricket. Just like Bradman's average of 99.94 in Test cricket, Charles Bannerman's innings has an air of divinity about it. As I was reading about this remarkable Test match and the superlative effort of Charles Bannerman, I was amazed to know that the first ever Test match was actually played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. I had always assumed that the first Test match would have been played at Lord's, since it is called the home of Test cricket. The second was that Australia drew the first blood so early in the rivalry with the Englishmen. English were the inventors of cricket, and I thought in the early years they would have had the wood over Australia. The third and the most interesting fact for me was that to mark the centenary of this Test match, another Test match was played between England and Australia in Melbourne in 1977. Australia in this Test match beat the English again. Australia defeated England by 45 runs. This was the exact difference by which Australia had defeated England 100 years ago in 1877. 45 runs. What is the probability of that happening? All I have to say that these things have a touch of divinity about them. My name is Anant and I'm signing off for 22 yards, and I hope to see you soon.